Yesterday, a bunch of Nintendo patents were uncovered, further confirming that the Switch 2's Joy-Con will feature some sort of mouse-like control method, something that was heavily teased in the reveal trailer and speculated about because of the leaks that showed an optical sensor on them. I feel like I haven't seen enough people talking about just how important this new functionality could actually end up being, so today I wanted to go over 10-ish Nintendo games I'm excited to see support these new mouse controls, because I really think this could be a complete game changer, not just for several Nintendo franchises, but also for third parties that decide to bring their games to the console as well. Let's get into it. Alright, first up, let's get the obvious one out of the way. I think we're all in agreement that this is not only going to happen, but it will make massive use of the mouse con, as we'll call them throughout this video. Super Mario Maker 3. I actually wasn't convinced they would make a Mario Maker 3. I feel like Mario Maker 2 had a bit of a softer reception than maybe Nintendo expected, even though it still sold like 8 million copies. I just feel like that game wasn't... Even though it sold more, I feel like that game wasn't as big of a deal as Mario Maker 1 was. Maybe that's just because the Wii U was a bad time to be a Nintendo fan, so we latched on to whatever we could get. But Mario Maker on Wii U was a sublime experience because of the Wii U gamepad using the touchscreen to make levels. Mario Maker 2, you just kind of have to either use the touchscreen on Switch in handheld mode, which isn't great, let's be honest, or use the Pro Controller or the Joy-Con and use buttons to place the tiles down and make your levels that way. The moment I saw that the Switch 2 would have some sort of mouse functionality, my mind immediately went to Mario Maker 3. I immediately became convinced that this is a game they will end up making at some point, because having mouse controls for a level editor will be maybe even better than using the Wii U gamepad was for Mario Maker 1. Being able to just slide around, pick the tiles, place them, drag them, hold and click, you know, Mario Maker with the mouse controls is going to be an absolute blast. I cannot wait to make levels again. I really didn't get that involved in the level editor in Mario Maker 2, to be honest, because I just didn't like using the controller and using buttons, but having the two Joy-Con, maybe you could even dual cursor it, right? I mean, that's something that we'll have to talk about with some of these games. Both Joy-Con on the Switch 2 have that optical sensor. What if you could have two cursors at once? Maybe that's a little bit much for your brain to really process doing two different actions with them, but I think Mario Maker 3 is a slam dunk. I totally think it's going to happen, and I just wanted to get that one out there first and foremost because I think it is the most obvious game that they can do. Throughout this video, I want to have a Nintendo example of a major Nintendo franchise that can use the new mouse Joy-Con functionality, but I also want to take that and go for a little bit of a third-party angle as well. If Mario Maker 3 exists, uses the mouse con, then I think it's safe to say we will end up seeing other level editor type games on the Switch 2. The Switch already has a few. I think of RPG Maker that would definitely benefit from having mouse usage. Another Nintendo example, I think you can make levels in Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, or what about like Tycoon games, like Roller Coaster Tycoon, Zoo Tycoon. These games are made for PC, using a mouse, dropping your little people and dropping your little blocks everywhere. Having a mouse control method on console for these types of games is going to be an absolute game changer. Next up is Splatoon. Now, Splatoon is interesting because initially, when it released on Wii U, having gyro controls the way that you use them in Splatoon, that wasn't really a thing back then. It has become very common now to see gyro controls in a game because of Splatoon. I truly believe that Splatoon really kind of was the forefather of mixing stick controls with gyro. Now, what if you add mouse controls so you can aim in Splatoon using the mouse? You're sliding it around on your table, on your desk or whatever, and you can aim that way. Splatoon having gyro controls back in the day definitely impacted games that would later come to Switch. I know Doom is one of those that does have gyro controls. I think they actually added those post-release, but I think there is a very, very good chance that Splatoon ends up seeing mouse controls, and this could go for any third-person shooter, right? Imagine Fortnite, where you can use the mouse and aim that way. I think there may end up being some concerns of unfair advantage when it comes to people that would rather play not using the mouse controls, or maybe not even using gyro controls. Maybe they just want to use the twin sticks. But the beauty of it is everybody is going to have access to the mouse Joy-Con functionality, right? When I play Fortnite on my PS5 and crossplay is enabled, I'm kind of at a disadvantage because I don't want to plug in a keyboard and mouse. And a lot of people might not even have a keyboard and mouse they could use on their PlayStation or Xbox or on their Switch. But because out of the box, you'll have the option to use the mouse controls, I don't really see it as an issue, and I'm definitely excited to see what high-level Splatoon 4 play, but also, you know, other third-person shooters. I'm excited to see what that looks like on the Switch 2 with mouse controls. And similarly, number 3, Metroid Prime 4, we talked about third-person shooters. first-person shooters even more popular. Metroid Prime 4 will definitely support this thing. I would be shocked if it doesn't, especially since Metroid Prime is a little bit of a slower game. It's all about like scanning the environment, looking around, taking in your surroundings. Being able to have those minor adjustments with mouse controls is going to be really fun in that game, just for, you know, looking around and for combat as well. But more importantly than Metroid Prime 4, other online FPS games, Call of Duty, Battlefield, these are things that are going to come to the Switch too. And once again, like I was saying with Fortnite, when you play crossplay on console, you're playing against people that have keyboard and mouse. Now, out of the box with Switch 2, you will have the ability to actually compete on a similar level to them out of the box with the Joy-Con. You don't have to plug in a keyboard and mouse, which is going to be really, really cool, and I'm excited for that as well. Okay, now we're getting a little bit spicier. Number 4 is Pikmin 5. I definitely think we'll be getting another Pikmin game. Pikmin 4, best-selling game in the series. Obviously, it's becoming a much bigger franchise. Pikmin 5 with mouse controls. The controls of Pikmin are interesting because they've always been divisive, right? On GameCube, you had to use the sticks. Wasn't the best. On Wii, when they made the new Play Control versions, those are really like the best way to play those games. Pikmin 3 on Wii U, once again, you can use the Wiimote. In that case, you even have the gamepad for your map. But then on Switch, it kind of got a little bit harder again. I would say that Pikmin 4 is designed enough that having motion controls for that game to fling your Pikmin out wasn't really, you know, it didn't really matter to me. I didn't notice that. But when I go back and play Pikmin 1 and 2 on Switch and I don't have the Wiimotes, you know, the Joy-Con motion isn't as good for flinging those Pikmin out. But having a mouse just to move the cursor around, you know, your left hand, you're using the stick, you're controlling Olimar that way, right? You're moving around, you're maybe using the whistle with ZL. But then on the right hand, you're just moving the cursor and flinging Pikmin out like that. That is going to be awesome, but once again, more exciting than Pikmin 5 itself is just other RTS games from third parties. I believe it was the CEO or a developer for Firaxis, the developers of Civilization 7. They didn't say anything specific, but they basically commented on the new mouse features of the Switch 2 Joy-Con, and we're kind of just like, oh, I think that's going to be really cool. So I think you'll see Civilization 7 on Switch 2 have proper mouse support. You'll see stuff like Age of Mythology and Age of Empires from Microsoft come over, and those will have mouse supports. Stuff like that is going to be so much better on console than it is right now. I think on PS5, like, you can plug in a keyboard and mouse for Civ 7, but just having that accessibility out of the box is going to be so nice for RTS games. Number 5, there's actually quite a few Nintendo franchises that I'm excited to see use the mouse functionality of the Joy-Con for Switch 2, but I think the main one for a lot of people is Star Fox. On-rail shooters are incredible. Light gun games like House of the Dead, also, that would definitely apply here as well. But think about Star Fox, you're on the, you know, R-Wing sections, and you're just using the mouse, man. It's gonna feel so good. It's gonna be so much more fluid than using a control stick to aim. Think about Kid Icarus Uprising. This game, notoriously, doesn't control the best on 3DS because it's on the 3DS, a little bit more limited there, using the touchscreen to aim in that game. Think about Kid Icarus Uprising, or a new Kid Icarus game on Switch 2 that uses the mouse. Think about Sin and Punishment's, a game I would love to see get resurrected like Nintendo is doing with so many other franchises. On-rail shooters are going to definitely heavily benefit from this, and like I mentioned, other light gun games. Think of, I mean, even, you know, House of the Dead 2 remake coming out soon on Switch. Think about, like, Duck Hunt. What if they put Duck Hunt back on this thing, man? That'd be really cool. Number 6 might not be as exciting to some people, but I do definitely think a lot of games will use it in this way. Famicom Detective Club, I think it's pretty safe to say we'll get another one after the reception to EMEO. People seem to really like EMEO. It's probably the best-selling one. We don't have exact numbers yet, but I think it's likely Sakamoto and his team and, you know, Mages. I think it's likely they're hard at work making another Famicom Detective Club game. Just being able to use the mouse to look around and click on things in the environment, investigate. I mean, that's how these games were made, right? Old school adventure games on PC, point and click adventure games. They're point and click. Now you can literally point and click with a mouse the way they're supposed to be played. So Famicom Detective Club, I could definitely see using it. But then stuff like Ace Attorney, Danganronpa, any text-based adventure game or visual novel, like, just having mouse controls for games like these is going to be really, really cool. Number 7 almost kind of borders the line of level editors, but Animal Crossing and cozy games. Animal Crossing less so. There's less like farming and stuff like that in Animal Crossing, but I can definitely imagine, you're putting down the tiles and the patterns on your island. Maybe you're designing patterns for clothing. Maybe you're organizing your house. Having mouse controls for something like that would definitely be a benefit. But I'm more thinking, generally speaking, other cozy games. Think about like farming games when you're, putting the soil down and you gotta water them. Having a mouse for that would be really cool. But most importantly, last week, EA brought The Sims 1 and 2 to PC again. They re-released them on PC. They were basically unplayable. The Sims 1 and 2, and really any Sims for that matter, those games never came to Switch. The Switch is like the cozy gamer machine because of Animal Crossing. Stardew Valley, I believe, outside of Steam numbers, has sold the best on Switch. You need to put Sims 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the new project they're working on is. You need to put these cozy games on the Switch too. And, Sims, we've had console ports of that in the past using controller. I played Sims 2 and Sims 2 busting out on my PS2 growing up, and I don't remember really having issue with using a regular controller. Certainly, you'll still have that as an option, but now that out of the box, you'll have a mouse input method, EA, you have to put the Sims games on here. You have to do it. Number 8's kind of obvious. I saved it for a little bit later because I think a lot of other people have already talked about this. This is likely how Nintendo is primarily going to use it in their games, like in terms of like really showing off, day one, they're going to have their weird, quirky launch title tech demo. They normally have one of those, Nintendo Land, Wii Sports, 1-2 Switch. We'll likely get something like this on launch day, but party games, casual software, I think of Mario Party, WarioWare, Wii Play, Clubhouse games, like these type of games are definitely going to have some sort of weird Joy-Con mouse shenanigans going on, and I think this is where you really see both Joy-Con having optical sensors coming into play. A lot of the games we discussed so far, you're going to have your right hand moving it like a mouse, and your left hand's going to hold it like, like you normally hold your Joy-Con. But for these party games, I can definitely see Nintendo doing some really weird stuff. I'm not sure exactly what that would be for Mario Party. Maybe you have both Joy-Con on the table and you're like moving them closer and closer together, or something like that. I don't freaking know. I know Nintendo is very creative and they will think of great ways to use this new feature in Mario Party, but I'd be really excited to see something like Wii Play return going all in on this new mechanic, because I don't know, I just think like air hockey, air hockey with a friend, you're playing on a table, you pass the other Joy-Con to them, and you're literally playing air hockey with the Joy-Con digitally, just something like that, I think there's going to be a lot of great uses for this, and WarioWare as well, a mouse-based WarioWare game where you have to click and stuff, that's going to be so much fun. I think this is where Nintendo itself, like in terms of their first party, is really going to thrive with the mouse-con, but honestly, I don't know if many other third-party developers, maybe indies, I don't know if they'll really use it in this way in particular, but Nintendo definitely will. Number 9, this is a dead franchise. We haven't seen a new one since I want to say like 2014 on the 3DS, maybe on Wii U. Art Academy. Yeah, we're going to get Art Academy on this thing, man. It's already kind of weird we didn't get one on Switch. Even just using the, albeit not very great, Switch touchscreen, that would have been fine. Brain Training on Switch, the European one, that came with a stylus. So you could have put Art Academy on the Switch as it is. But now that you'll have the option of both touchscreen, but also using a mouse, I feel like Art Academy definitely going to get a new entry, even if it's just on the eShop. And then other art applications in general. Colors Live is a game that came out on Switch, a sequel to a 3DS game. It actually included a stylus that you plug into the headphone jack of the Switch, and maybe they would still do stuff like that. Using a stylus is going to be better than using the mouse. But Art Academy is one. It'd just be kind of cool to see them bring that back. It's not something I really am that invested in, but I know it did have a pretty big following, and just to see it dormant for so long is a little sad. So Art Academy, that'd be pretty cool to see come back as well. And then, yeah, like I said, other art applications will totally use it. And then finally, not necessarily the one I'm excited for the most, I'm excited for pretty much all of these, but number 10, rhythm games, specifically Rhythm Heaven. Think about like the DK bongos, and think about what you're doing when you're, slapping the Taiko no Tatsujin drum. You're moving a thing up and down. For Rhythm Heaven, for example, you could literally just be lifting the Joy-Con up and down from the table, maybe not slapping it too hard, you don't want to break the Joy-Con, but Rhythm Heaven and just other rhythm games in general, I think of like Elite Beat Agents. That game heavily used the stylus. You could totally bring that back with a mouse control method. Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy, one of my favorite rhythm games of all time, would greatly benefit from mouse controls. And, you know, talking about Elite Beat Agents, I don't know if we would ever get a console port of this. I don't think that even makes sense. I've never played this, but I've seen footage of it. Something like Osu, that is a rhythm game that explicitly uses the mouse on a PC. Stuff like that, man, that is going to be so cool to see be brought over to the Switch and see what new ways rhythm game devs, to be fair, there's not that many rhythm games, but to see what new ways these mouse controls on console will actually impact the design of something like a Rhythm Heaven or maybe a new Elite Beat Agents. Like, that'll be really, really awesome. So that is just 10 games, or 10 genres, I guess we'll say, that I am very excited to see on the Switch 2, and to see how the new mouse con functionality of the Switch 2 Joy-Con, I'm excited to see, you know, how that'll actually change the way these games are played at the launch of the Switch 2, you know, seeing how Nintendo does their weird, quirky stuff with it, but then also seeing how developers adapt to it. I mean, there's a chance that people don't really use it in this way. I know there's a lot of concerns of, well, if I'm playing at my, you know, couch or something, I don't really have a surface. Am I going to use the mouse on my leg? That's a little weird, right? So this maybe won't be used this excessively, but honestly, I just think there's so much potential here. It really just comes down to the developers and how they choose to use it. Maybe Nintendo won't use it for Splatoon or Metroid, but they will use it for Pikmin or Star Fox or Famicom Detective Club, right? It's really just another option. These games will still be playable with gyro controls, with, you know, stick controls, but having more options is always a great thing, and I'll be very curious to see how developers use it. So if there's any other major genres I left out, let me know in the comments down below. Off the top of my head, as I'm signing off here, MMOs, man. MMOs on console, not the best. I play Final Fantasy XIV on PS5, and I've definitely adapted to having regular controls, but having, you know, a cursor that you can just easily move around, you know, that's going to be a game changer. And I'm sure Final Fantasy XIV will come to console. There's rumors that WoW is going to come to Xbox. Maybe that would come to Switch too. And, you know, they wouldn't have to compromise the experience that much because, once again, you'll be able to use a mouse on the game. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Any other games or genres I forgot to mention, I would love to get a conversation going. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch news, content coverage, all that fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames, and check out my other channel at It's Amiibo. Until next time, folks, peace.